Welcome, everybody. Excited to be with y'all again today, talking career development. What do we need to do? Today's topic I'm quite passionate about. Michael Purifoy is with me today. Believe it or not, he has been keeping me on the straight and narrow with finances for, I don't know how many years you've been doing this, Michael.
Long time.
But I thought, long time. So I thought it'd be a great topic to kind of break us down to just everybody that kind of is tuning in to watch. Hey, I'm freshly out of school. What do I need to be doing? I'm newly married in my early 30s. Where's my path? And then for those that are on the backside of their career, what are some things to think about? And so brought nobody else I could think of than the Michael Purifoy to talk through what we're doing today. And it's something that I'm super passionate about with finances and investing for retirement. That's the end goal, is it not? So Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
Awesome. Michael, give us a little bit about your background quickly, 30-second snippet of who you are, who you work for, where you've come from.
Yeah, so I spent 3 years out of school with Ernst & Young in public accounting. So lasted 3 years there and then got into the wealth management, financial planning world back in 2005. And we've got a group called Southwestern Investment Group. We're just an independent firm. And I kept my CPA license and got my CFP designation. So we do a lot of tax-oriented planning, which is really fun. There's kind of endless ways to save money on taxes, keep more of your investment growth. So yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. So Michael, I'm 22 years old, just started my first job. I have no idea what I'm doing. What do you tell me? That's the 23-year-old Kyle that I did walk into your office into. I think maybe we started working when I was 25. But what do you say to that person right out of school that has no idea what they're doing? They hear the word retirement. They're like, it's so far away. I don't need to worry about it. I'm going to spend my money and live my life free and not worrying about when I'm 60. What do you say?
Right.
What are some thoughts?
Yeah, it reminds me of the quote, the person who reads nothing at all is better off than the person who reads only newspapers. You know, that's actually from Thomas Jefferson. So I'd stay off the internet and go buy a Dave Ramsey book, to be honest. But and seriously, put some cash in the bank, 1, 2, 3 months worth of expenses so you can breathe, because emergencies are going to happen. And then if you really kind of have the short term taken care of, then you can really focus on the long term. And, there's a reason there's over $7 trillion in 401k plans in this country, because there's payroll withdrawals. So just start. If you don't have a 401k, do an IRA. Tax shelters are the best place to start, because it's not about what you make. It's about what you keep after taxes. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned early on, and you can talk a little bit about this, is like, okay, well, I don't make enough money, Michael, to save for retirement. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's tricky because it's hard. It's harder when you're, say, in your 20s to save than it is in your 40s. But the reverse is also true. You get way more bang for your buck, off the money that you save in your 20s compared to your 40s. It's that example that we were talking about earlier. If you've essentially saved the same amount of money in your 20s every year, and then you stop, you're still going to be ahead compared to if you had started, say, in your 30s and never stopped. So I'll say that again. If you start in your 30s and never stop until retirement saving, that's a good thing. But what's just crazy how the math works is that if you only saved in your 20s the same amount, you'd still be ahead. So it just goes to show that really most of your retirement savings nest egg is most of the time is going to be money that you saved before age 40. It's crazy.
That is the time value money and the growth that it shows. I have this link that I cannot post in the comment section that I was going to post up there, but basically it shows. You want to explain that graph, Michael, a little bit? What you sent to me.
Yeah, think of it this way. I tell people all the time, money doesn't grow like a wheelchair ramp. Okay, money grows like a skateboard ramp, right? I wouldn't get on a skateboard ramp, but the cool thing about the skateboard ramp is it gets really steep as you get closer to retirement. And so, someone saving, whether it's $2,000 a year or $5,000 a year or whatever, it doesn't matter. The person who only saved in their 20s is ahead compared to the person who started in their 30s. And it's crazy how money grows. And that's why, Ben Franklin was so amazed with it. He said, the money you put in makes money, and then the money that it makes money. It's a crazy thing. And so, life is about trying to live with no regrets. And so as you get closer to retirement or in retirement, you don't want to have regrets. You want to be thankful for what you did when you're in your younger years. And that's the name of the game.
Totally. Liz came through with the PDF there on that showing kind of from Dave Ramsey, the Ben and Arthur explanation of that. So you can kind of dive into that and see kind of what Michael was just discussing there. Michael, anything else for the young folk, for individuals right out of college? I mean, the biggest thing is discipline, is just doing it. It sounds like, right?
Right.
Just however much it is, getting in a habit. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just,
that's right.
It's a monthly cadence of, okay, well, I pay myself first, right? Each month I'm going to, contribute to this and this and everything. And I think that's the biggest thing that people lose, is that they try to do that on the back end instead of doing it on the front end.
That's right.
And being consistent with it. And
that's right.
And if you don't know where to invest, hey, get some help. Call you. Ask a friend. Somebody I can get somebody started, and I don't even do this for a profession.
Right.
You want to get real technical and some tax shelters, you need to talk to Michael about that. But it's not rocket science. And I think one other book for me that we haven't even talked about this, that really changed my outlook on just investing in money, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It just kind of goes back to the fact that we were talking of like how making your money work for you instead of you working for your money.
That's right.
And so understanding passive income and what the strength that passive income brings.
That's right. That's right. And, the other thing that's really important is we're going to keep more of our investment growth if we use the right tax shelters. And they don't have to be complicated. They can be 401ks, IRAs, even HSAs used over the long run can be really helpful.
That's HSA is the secret weapon. You taught me that like 3 years ago. Sadly, I've been spending mine. We'll get into that I'm sure here in a minute, but all those. And when you say tax shelters, it's basically you just get to put the money in tax free, right?
That's right.
In the beginning.
That's right.
So yeah.
That's right.
So
and the other big thing that I think is really, really important for those that are, say, under 40 or really anybody with 10 years or more to retirement is, and you mentioned this a second ago, is you have to pick some investments. Let's say you're in your 401k and you've got a dozen options. You've got to pick something. And so I remember picking investments for the first time back in my Ernst & Young days. And I just was kind of following the Dave Ramsey methodology. I looked at which funds had the best returns and were the most consistent. And so in some ways, it's not rocket science. You can always get help from a qualified professional. That's always a good idea. But a lot of good 401k plan providers these days have really qualified people at 800 numbers, things like that, if you just have questions. But picking really good growth stock mutual funds, that's really key. You need to really kind of stay away from the fixed accounts and the cash and the bond funds when you're younger. That's really, really, really important. The good growth stock mutual funds that have the higher returns.
Low fees as well, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch for the fees.
Yeah.
You can, those are two things I'm looking at on a 401k is the return, and I'm looking at the fees they charge percentage wise. So, awesome. So, hey, we're moving in. We're 30 now, Michael, married, one kid, or in my situation, I had 3 by 30. Don't recommend that. That was aggressive, but it was fun. What are some advice for those folks that are kind of 8 to 10 years into their career and they've started to do the normal investing? How do we kind of ramp that up for them?
Yeah, if the 20s are for learning and the 30s are for earning, then you could start to get into a situation where maybe you're maxing out tax shelters, maybe you've got other places to put away money. I think the key is to make sure you're putting away a consistent percentage of your income, 10 to 15% of your income. Again, it's not about having more money in retirement compared to somebody else. It's all really about having no regrets. And if you put away 10 to 15% of your income for a couple or few decades, then literally work will be optional at a fairly decent to early retirement age. And that's the name of the game. It's all about doing it for you, not for anybody else. And what it takes, I think, in your 30s, as our incomes potentially go up, the challenge can be, and Kyle, I was thinking about you the other day, actually, unrelated to this, how I think you do a really good job of this, of really making smart decisions around expenses, because now we're making more money, we can spend more, and that's totally fine. I love to spend money. Dave Ramsey is a spender at heart, right? My wife is a saver at heart. But there are really good budget apps. Every dollar, I'll put a plug in for that. Every dollar is an awesome budget app. It's very clean, very easy. But that's the kind of stuff you get into in your 30s when you start earning a little bit more money. We need to stick with the principles that we were just talking about, but it gets trickier. More money, more problems. Somebody said that. But
it's true. I think it was a rap song back in the day.
That's right.
But no, you're totally true on the expenses. Start earning more. Something I've done throughout my career is, like, anytime you start earning more money or getting a promotion, getting higher salaries, is I just ratchet up my 401k percentage automatically, because I'm already not accustomed to the money I'm going to be making. And I'm like, well, I want to dive half of that into my retirement. Right. And so just thinking like that, where if you don't have it, you don't think about it. And the expense game you can kind of get in a little bit of a rat race, right? Of just things that, I want to buy this, I want to do this, I want to experience this. Right. And all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't have the money this month. Let me just swipe the credit card. Right. And you do that 3 or 4 times, and all of a sudden your credit card's at $7,000. You're like, holy crap, what have I done? Right. Yeah, and so
it's crazy.
People that make 6 figures are broke. That's the reality. And so it becomes down to it's a spending issue. Yeah. That's it in your 30s. In my opinion.
Right.
That's the difference between somebody being really in a really good position in their 40s to retire at 55 than somebody who's now like, they're playing catch up in their 40s. Right.
That's right. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that most people who are at least on the spender side by nature have had that feeling. If they've started to make more money than they've made in the past, they have that feeling in their gut of like, oh goodness, like what did I do? Like, I made this much more money this year, and where did it all go? I've had it. I think a lot of people have felt that. And there's one of my favorite authors says that, money does the same thing for everybody. It grounds us. And so it's not any fun sometimes when we make financial mistakes, or when we do have regrets. We're all going to have short-term financial regrets. Just don't let them be long-term regrets, and let money keep your feet on the ground, meaning there's a finite amount of money, whether you're Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or Kyle Allen or Michael Purifoy. Money is finite. And so you have to make decisions. And so it's kind of this lesson in humility, at least for me in my life, of continuing to realize I can't get anything to add up to more than 100%. I've got to stop at 100%. And it's just, you have to be intentional. And that's where some handy budget apps can really come into play. As much as we probably hate doing it, for those that are married, sit down with your spouse once a quarter, even if it's just once a year, and just talk through it. And again, this is where, finding some help from someone can be really nice. But I think it's just helpful to remember that it's really a struggle for everybody. Just practicing some common sense and wisdom and humility can really go a long way.
Well, I think it helps me when I got in my 30s, understanding like, hey, you are the CEO of your corporation, right? And you have revenue coming in every 2 weeks into your company, right? And where is it going? Because at Vaco, I'll tell you right now, they know where every dollar is going, right? Yep. They know how much money they have left over. They know where their expenses are. They know where the revenue's coming in. And so if you treat yourself like a company, it kind of changes your mindset a little bit, and basically it helps you kind of, move forward. And all of a sudden at the end of the month, you're like, wow, I got that left over. And whatever you have left over, guess what? Move it. Move it to savings, cash, whatever. So
I tell if you were CEO, would you renew your contract if you were CEO, or would you fire yourself?
That's right. But I tell my kids this all the time, and this is so true. Like, just cash gives you options. Yeah. You have options. If you don't have cash, you don't have options. You got to go to work, or you got to have somebody do it for you. It's just like you got to do it for them. So Good stuff. All right. So, hey, back half of our career, entering our 40s.
Yep.
What are some things that obviously there's a couple different paths, right? You got the catch up path and you got the path where, you're in a really good shape. You can see kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. What changes for you? What are you thinking about there?
Yeah. A lot of it's reiterating what we've already talked about. It's never really too late. I've seen a lot of people really kind of start, we shouldn't even say this, but like I've seen a lot of people start in their 40s and make up a ton of progress. But that's the hard way to do it.
Yeah.
So don't do it that way.
Well, you gotta have a lot of income to do it. Number one, or two, you're sacrificing a crap ton.
That's right. That's 40s. Right. And you're likely probably working longer. I've seen people start in their 40s and make a lot of progress to catch up, but it doesn't mean they're probably able to retire at 60. It's probably closer to 70. So, but I have seen, it makes me think of, I'm a golfer. So Harold Varner, who's got like one half of a PGA Tour victory, asked Tiger Woods one time, like, how do I win more? And Tiger Woods has got 82 PGA Tour victories, right? And Tiger Woods gave him one piece of advice. He said, Harold, run your own race. And so I think that's important, is not to get discouraged, run your own race, and just remember that in order for work to be optional one day, you're still going to have a couple or few decades of putting away 10 to 15% into the right investments, into the right tax shelter. So it's a lot of the stuff we've already talked about, but I think psychologically, in some ways, it can get a little bit easier as we get older, because maybe we're making more money, but also we're probably a little bit more sober in the way we're thinking through retirement, because there's only going to be one question: when retirement comes, are you ready or are you not ready? Because you can retire when you have enough and when you've had enough, right? When you've had enough of the stuff that you don't really want to deal with anymore at work, but you got enough money, and it's just going to be a yes or no answer. And so I think that gets easier to kind of practice that common sense and wisdom as we get older. And so if you're playing catch up, then you probably need to be saving 15 to 20% of your income. But I think, using the right tax shelters, running your own race, and just remembering that, nobody but us cares what we drive or what type of clothes we have or whatever. Like nobody cares. And just stick to your own plan, and doing some more detailed financial planning calculations and retirement income projections is super, super helpful as we get into our 40s and 50s.
Yeah. Well, I think too, and you mentioned this too, as you kind of get into the 30s and 40s, then you got the whole college piece, Michael, as well, that I think that was something that I was gifted with, as far as not having any student loans. And I'm going to do that for my kids too. And saving for college for your kids, because we can spend a whole episode on kind of college debt and what that's strapping kids with today. Kids are coming out of school with a home mortgage basically, right? Yeah. And so just doing I want to throw a plug in there too for the folks that are, if they're not doing that, to get back to their kids is like a huge blessing. Yeah. To be able to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, man, Michael, this was super helpful. I think we can do part 2 of this with a little bit more. Yeah. Where I can learn some things that I need to be doing as well, from a more tax shelter type things and heading in trust, estates, all that kind of jazz. But we'll leave it here for now, and really, really appreciate your time and wisdom, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
All right. See you.